On today's show, did not see that coming. Cavs get crushed by the Thunder. What matters from this game? Let's try and figure that out together on today's edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? My name's Danny Cunningham. You might know me from my time covering the Cleveland Cavaliers, places like my Substack, The Inside Shot, Cleveland Magazine, 92.3 The Fan, and a number of other stops along the way. I want to say thank you to you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about the show. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure they're subscribed as well. And if you're watching the show on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. You're proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show, of course, brought to you by FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Also, Locked On Cavs now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On Cavs daily newsletter, your one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That is LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Cavs newsletter. So the Cleveland Cavaliers lose Thursday night to the Oklahoma City Thunder, 134-114. I didn't see this coming. I don't think many of you saw this coming. I don't know that there was necessarily a way to envision this coming. Did I see the Cavs maybe losing this game because the Thunder had revenge on their mind because of what happened just over a week ago in Cleveland? Sure. Thought that was a totally plausible outcome for this game. Did I see Donovan Mitchell maybe struggling again against Dort? Sure thought that was a possibility. Did I see maybe Evan Mobley not having the best night? Maybe. I don't know that I saw that coming. Did I see the Cavs trailing by as many as 42 points in this game? No, I did not see that coming. I did not see a blowout loss to the degree that we saw on Thursday night coming for the Cleveland Cavaliers. And it was, I think, give OKC all the credit in the world. I thought that they played maybe the best, most complete basketball game of any single team that I have seen this entire season, whether it's against the Cavs, whether it's against somebody else. I don't know that I've seen a team play a better game on both ends of the floor in the entire NBA in any single game this season. And I think Oklahoma City deserves a ton of credit for that. I thought that OKC came in this game, and there's something that I do truly believe about the playoffs, and that is when, just let me paint you a picture of kind of how I'm viewing this specific game that happened on Thursday night. In the postseason, when two good teams are facing off in a series, I'm not talking about like a 1-8 matchup, like if the Cavs have the 1 seed this year and they end up squaring off against, I don't know, maybe the Detroit Pistons, who are a fine team, but they're not like some serious contender team. So that type of matchup. And let's say that it's a 4-5 matchup, like it was last year, Cavs Magic. Cavs go up 2-0. They take care of business at home. And then think back to what Orlando did in game 3. They absolutely destroyed the Cavs. They came out in that game. They looked like a team that was desperate. They looked like a team that was playing for their season. Now, how does that compare to what happened on Thursday night? You might be sitting, yeah, that's the postseason. This is a game that happened on January 16th. I thought Oklahoma City looked like a desperate team on Thursday night. I thought they looked like a team that, even though they weren't, they looked like a team that was playing for their season. They played near perfect basketball. They wanted it more. I thought they played harder. And I thought that they just absolutely dominated every single facet of the game. Like, it was a 134-114 final. The game was not that close. Like, it was, the Cavs reserves came in the fourth quarter, thought played well. You know, if you want to find a bright spot to this game, it's either, hey, Darius Garland was good, or Sam Merrill hit some threes in garbage time. Maybe he'll find a rhythm because of that. Like, those are the two things that you can look at and say, okay, yeah, that's nice. But overall, this was a game where the Cavs were thoroughly dominated unlike any other game that we have seen this year. They've lost some games. They've put up some stinkers. Those games against Atlanta, certified stinkers. Last Sunday against the Pacers, certified stinker. This was domination. This was something that the Cavs just absolutely got dominated. The Thunder looked like a desperate team. It's hard to fake desperation. The Cavs did not look like a desperate team. To them, this game, for me, and I'm not in OKC. I was watching on TV like all of you. To me, this looked like a regular game to the Cavs, and that's fine. It's January 16th. I'm not going to sit here and say it's time to sound the alarms because the Cavs got blown out on national TV. At the end of the day, I don't think that this specific game and this specific outcome is some big deal. I don't think that it's worth panicking over. So I want to put that out there before we really dive into this. But to me, the Cavs looked like that this was just another night in January. And that's not the worst thing in the world. OKC came out and they looked like this was a postseason game. And that is what you have. That is the results you're going to get when you have two very different, I think, intensity levels that I saw. I thought OKC was more intense. I thought they were more focused defensively. I thought that they just played a great game. And they deserve all the credit in the world. I think that there are some things to be concerned about from this game. And really, it's greater than just this one single game, because I can't sit here and say, oh, it's not time to sound the alarms about this game and then also say there's nothing to be concerned about. But the Cavs defensively is where I think the issue with this one lies. It's not the fact that they coughed the ball up too much. They turned the ball over like crazy in the first three quarters. And that's part of the reason why the Cavs struggled defensively, is because OKC created so many opportunities off of turnovers. But there wasn't a setting that I looked at in this game and thought, you know what, the Cavs at least did that well defensively. There was nothing that I look at and say, yeah, the defense was good in this particular spot. They got cooked in man coverage. They got cooked in zone coverage. OKC shot the ball really well. They maybe shot the ball a little bit above their heads, and that goes into it. The role players certainly played better in OKC than they did in Cleveland a week ago, which I do think is something to be expected. But the Cavs defense is something that has sort of been trending in this direction for a little while now. Let's go back to December 27th. That was the game the Cavs won in Denver, 149-135. It was one of the best offensive performances I have ever seen from a team. What the Cavs did to the Denver Nuggets that night. They were absolutely outstanding offensively, but they gave up 135 points. They did not play well defensively. And to be fair, Denver's a very good offensive team. So that's going to be our starting point. That is the start of the last 10 games the Cavs have played. They're 8-2 in that stretch. 8-2 in that stretch. Lost to the Pacers on Sunday, lost on Thursday night to OKC. Not the worst stretch of basketball in the world, but you know what else they are? They're 22nd in defense in the last 10 games. Offensively, the Cavs didn't play great. They turned the ball over too much. Like I said, they didn't shoot the ball well. I thought that they didn't finish at the rim, and I think that's kind of where things started in this game, that they got a lot of really good looks near the basket in the first quarter, and they missed a bunch of them. Like, they were 4 of their first 10 inside the paint, and I just thought that was a really bad omen for what was to come for them. But then you go out and just defensively, you struggle again. And that has been something that has been the most inconsistent part of this Cavs team. And I think it's something that does need to improve. Like, if you want to have something that's concerning about this game, maybe you can point to Donovan Mitchell, and I'll talk about his matchup with Lou Dort coming up a little bit later on the show. But I think it's the defense. They're 22nd in defense since December 27th. It's not the biggest sample size in the world, but considering now they've played 40 games, they're 34-6. They've played 40 games. That is a quarter of the season for them so far. That is a quarter of their season. They're 22nd in defense. Their defensive rating in that time is 115. That's not a championship level defense. And the thing I think that is a little confusing about this is it's not as if they don't have the pieces to be a championship level defense. And I can't quite figure out exactly what it is, because Jared Allen is still a really good defender. Evan Mobley is still one of, in my opinion, the 3 best defenders in basketball. I don't think that Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell are playing poorly defensively. Now, no one's ever going to compare those guys to Gary Payton on that end of the floor, but I think those guys have been putting forth effort. I think that Dean Wade is a really good defender. So this is the thing that I can't quite figure out, is why the Cavs are struggling so much defensively. But I thought that really was the reason why this game was as bad as it was. And yeah, you can point to the turnovers and you can point to OKC getting a lot of easy looks because of bad offense, and you'd be right. But then I can also look at and say, okay, well, the Cavs scored 35 points in the second quarter. They had 38 points going into halftime, and then a three-pointer by Max Strus was overturned because they said he stepped out of bounds. So I can't look at this and say, man, they really couldn't figure it out offensively. They scored 35 points in the second quarter. They scored 32 points in the third quarter. Those are fine outputs. Now, the first quarter was a disaster, in part because they missed a lot of open looks near the basket. But overall, it's hard for me to look and say, yeah, they lost this game because they weren't good enough offensively. They lost this game because they gave up 119 points in the first three quarters. They lost this game because in the second quarter, they gave up 43 points. In the third quarter, they gave up 44 points. So defensively is exactly where the Cavs are not good enough right now. It's not just about Thursday night against OKC. It's about what it's been lately. And that, I think, if you want to come away concerned with one thing from this game, I don't think it's the offense. I don't think it's the fact that Donovan Mitchell had another poor night against OKC. I don't think, not to say you shouldn't be concerned about that, but the most concerning part about this and this recent stretch of basketball for the Cavs, it's what they've been doing defensively. That to me is the biggest concern. Now, I've mentioned Donovan Mitchell a couple times. He had another rough night against OKC. How concerned should we be about this specific matchup? We'll talk about that next right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%. Plus, you also get 4% APY on your cash in non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at robinhood.com/gold. That is robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to robinhood.com/boost. Over 8 times the national average savings account interest rate. Claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November 18th, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. You can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Make sure you're subscribed. Make sure a friend is subscribed as well. Bit of an announcement. I'm going to do something new today. I'm going to come with a bonus Friday episode. There will be a second episode of Locked On Cavs today. I'm going to call it the Friday 5. Where what I'm going to do, I'm going to pick out 5 topics from the week, 5 things I either liked or didn't like about the Cavs. I'm going to spend 5 minutes on each of those. So make sure you're subscribed. That will be hitting your feed a couple hours after this one, aiming for late morning, early afternoon. But I do want to kind of have a weekly encapsulation episode. And if you're looking for a little bit more positivity about the Cavs than this specific episode, after what happened against OKC on Thursday night, the Friday 5 coming up might be something that's for you. But let's talk about Donovan Mitchell because he had another rough night against the Thunder. Let's go back a week ago, game the Cavs won. Donovan only played 11 minutes. He struggled in that matchup. He was 3 of 16 shooting. Dort really did a good job on him defensively. Now, fast forward to Thursday night. Donovan Mitchell scores 8 points. To be fair here, did not play nearly as many minutes in this game because he didn't play in the fourth quarter at all. So that is something that you do have to account with the low point total. You have to say, well, Donovan Mitchell only played 20 minutes in this game. And that's a fair thing. You have to be fair there. But he's 3-15. He had another rough night shooting. And I thought Dort did a great job on him last Wednesday. Kind of Donovan Mitchell just had an off night on Thursday night. Like there were several looks at, and give OKC credit for a good part of that, but there were several looks he had, particularly near the basket, that we're used to seeing Donovan Mitchell convert on. We're used to seeing Donovan Mitchell make, and he did not do that on Thursday night in OKC. He struggled around the rim. His shot looked okay, made a couple threes, made a mid-range jump shot, but overall, he didn't necessarily look like Donovan Mitchell, the Donovan Mitchell that we have come to know. So what I do think from this game, you worry about what he looks like matched up against Lu Dort, because that is something that Lu Dort had something to do with that. It wasn't everything, but it wasn't nothing either. It's something that you look at historically, he does struggle in this matchup. And yes, the Cavs don't play OKC again this year until a potential matchup in the finals. And you have to get to the finals before you can worry about what this matchup can look like in the finals. It's not something that just, oh, well, we'll see what that looks like when we get there. You wait. You don't put the cart before the horse there. And maybe that will be an issue if the Cavs get there in June. I think that's an issue Cavs fans would be thrilled to talk about, because that means the Cavs are in the finals. But I do think that if it comes to that at some point, you have to start thinking about how this series could look. And I think that this has to be, if these two teams match up in the NBA Finals. It's a big if. But if they do, I think that this has to be a series where Evan Mobley looks like the guy. Where if you're going to our friends at FanDuel and betting on a Finals MVP, if it's Cavs Thunder and you're betting on a Finals MVP, like, to me, Evan Mobley or Darius Garland would be the smart bet in that series. Not because they are the best player on the Cavs, but because this is just an awful matchup for Donovan Mitchell. I don't know that this is something that can or will be fixed, but I do know Donovan Mitchell is a much better player than what we saw from him on Thursday night in OKC. Evan Mobley also did not have a good game. I'm not as concerned. Like, I thought that OKC did a really good job getting their hands on the basketball with him. I also thought that Evan Mobley brought the ball down a little bit too much. Like, he's obviously a 7-footer, and OKC didn't have a ton of size, but when Evan Mobley would be bringing the ball down after catching a high pass or either on his gather, I thought the Thunder did a fantastic job of reaching in and maybe being a little bit physical, to the point where, one of the advantages that teams do have when they play smaller, which obviously OKC did, because OKC is without either of its centers in this matchup. They didn't have Isaiah Hartenstein. They didn't have Chet Holmgren. But when you play a little bit smaller, the way OKC did on Thursday night, the smaller lineups tend to be able to get away with a little bit more physicality on the bigger guys. That is just something that happens every single time in these types of games. And I think that Evan Mobley really struggled with that. It's not that he has struggled with physicality this year, because I don't think that's the case, but I think he had to play through a little bit more of it than we're used to seeing because of the guys who are defending him. OKC typically does a good job of playing physical no matter who the opponent is, which is hilarious considering how many foul shots Shai Gilgeous-Alexander does tend to get throughout the course of games. But the Thunder do a really great job of playing physical on defense. They have very active hands. They're the best team in the NBA at creating turnovers, and we saw that on display. I'm not as concerned with how Evan Mobley played on Thursday night. I'm fine, especially with how he's been lately. I'm fine with Evan just saying, you know what? It was a bad game. We're going to forget about it. We're going to move on. That's going to be that. That's sort of where I'm at. And then Darius Garland, I thought he was the bright spot. He was 7 of 10. He had a good night, particularly in the second quarter where the Cavs got off to such a bad start. I thought Darius Garland did a good job of coming out in the second quarter and saying, you know what, we're not going to bail on this game. We're not going to go out on this game and just act like we don't belong. We're going to show some fight. I thought that Darius Garland did a good job of showing that fight. So if you want to take away a bright spot from this game, Darius Garland is probably the one to go with. He's been playing, I think, awesome basketball lately. And I didn't think that necessarily changed on Wednesday night in OKC. Now, he, had 3 turnovers, which is not something that you want to see, but the Cavs as a team turned the ball over 21 times. And OKC, like I said, deserves a ton of credit. I don't know that I have seen a team play a better game than what OKC played on Thursday night. I don't know that I've seen a better game from any NBA team than the one OKC played against the Cavs Thursday night. So the important thing from this game is not actually this game. I'll tell you what the important thing from this is next, right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Even this Cavs game, you could have kept it exciting. They were down by 42. Are they going to keep it within 25? I saw on the broadcast they put up the live line on FanDuel was 25.5 at one point. If you took it there, you covered, you won. Not saying much, but you won there. So whether you're betting on your favorite team, just looking to add a little bit of extra excitement to the playoffs, FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. Again, that's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Today's show is also brought to you by Skims. We're going to talk about my underwear. Yeah, that's what we're going to do here because right now, I'm not going to get up and show you, but I'm wearing Skims underwear right now. And it is the best underwear that I've ever worn. I'm someone that historically, I'm very particular about my underwear. I want comfort. I like a certain style. I have tried a lot of different brands of underwear and none of them have been as good as Skims. None of them. And when I found out that Skims was going to have underwear for men, I was like, really, what is that going to be about? And then I tried it. And now I never want to go back. I only want to wear this underwear because it is the best underwear that I've ever worn. They've got everything that you could ask for. They've got boxer briefs. They've got cotton boxer briefs. The stretch 5-inch, that's what I'm into. I like a little bit of longer underwear. I don't want to get bunched up, but that's just uncomfortable for me. But they've got everything you could ask for. And none of this stuff is in a script. Like I have a script. I'm looking at a script on my computer. I'm not reading off of it because I'm telling you from the heart, this is the best underwear that I've ever worn. So shop Skims Men at skims.com/LockedOnNBA and in Skims store. Again, that is skims.com, skims.com/LockedOnNBA, LOCKEDONNBA. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, which you should do, select podcast in the survey and select our show in the drop-down menu that follows. Again, go to skims.com. That's skims.com/LockedOnNBA, LOCKEDONNBA. It is the best underwear I've ever worn. If I had to bet, you'll probably like it too. Again, skims.com/LockedOnNBA. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. Like I said earlier, if you're watching the show on YouTube, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button for me, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. So this was a bad game for the Cavs. There's no way to get around it. They got smoked. They got embarrassed on national television. They lost the game by 20. That was more like a 40-point loss. It was not close, not as close as the final score, I should say. The most important thing I think that comes out of this game is not this game. I think the most important thing that comes out of this game is the way the Cavs respond. You know, I mentioned a little bit earlier in the show today that the Cavs are 22nd in the NBA defensively in their last 10 games. For a team with championship aspirations, which the Cavs have made no secret about having, that is not good enough. For a team that has Evan Mobley, for a team that has Jarrett Allen, for a team that has Dean Wade, Max Strus, Isaac Okoro, some Karis LeVert, some really good defenders, 22nd in the NBA is not good enough. That is the area that I think very much does need to improve. And what I am always interested in, and the way that I consume things that I cover, right, is less about what happens and more about, well, how do you respond to what happens? Because the Cavs didn't win or lose a championship on Thursday night. They didn't win or lose a division. They didn't win or lose the conference. I mean, if you want to go back Wednesday night, the Boston Celtics lost to the Toronto Raptors, and the Raptors are 10-31. They're real bad. The Cavs didn't win or lose anything other than one single game on Thursday night. But what the Cavs can do is respond the right way. I thought we saw them respond the right way on Tuesday night to their loss against the Pacers on Sunday night. And yes, Thursday night against OKC was a much stiffer challenge. But if you want to look at this, the Cavs have not been playing their best basketball lately. In the last 10 games, Cavs have a net rating of like +5, which that's a good net rating. I think it's 6th in the NBA. But the Cavs are not a team that should be 6th in the NBA. They should be near the top because they are, to me, one of the best teams in basketball. They've done nothing but prove that all year long. So, and it also, to be clear here, it's not fair to expect the Cavs to play their best basketball every single night. They're going to have clunkers. They're going to have stinkers. That's what Thursday night was. That's what other games have been. But how you respond to those, I think, is what is really important. Let's go back. They lost 2 straight games to the Atlanta Hawks, end of November, sandwiched around Thanksgiving. Then they're down by 12 points in the fourth quarter against the Boston Celtics. They come back and win that game. That was a great response. And then from there on, I believe they won 14 out of 15 or something like that because they lost that game to Miami on the second night of back-to-back. That was the only game they lost in the month of December. They were awesome after that. That was the proper response. Now, how do the Cavs respond to this game? They go into Minnesota, a team that will be on the second night of a back-to-back on Saturday night. Do the Cavs look like a team that looks motivated, that looks like they just got their tails kicked? Or do they continue to not play great defense? Do they find a way to win, but in a less than impressive way? The thing that I look at here is after the Cavs beat OKC last Wednesday night in Cleveland, OKC had played 3 games between then and Thursday night. They went to New York. They beat the Knicks by 25. They went to Washington. They beat the Wizards by 41. They went to Philly. This is not that impressive. They beat the Sixers by 16. Again, that Sixers team, not great. Thunder should have won that game by more. But what they did was they took that loss personally against the Cavs, and they came out motivated, and they made a huge statement the very next time they played. And since then, they have looked like the best team in basketball. They have been the best team in basketball. Cavs have lost twice since then, and I don't know that they've looked particularly great even in their wins, because you think about the win they had against Toronto the day after the OKC game, which, to be clear here, very understandable after an emotional game against OKC, having to play a back-to-back, no Donovan Mitchell. That's an understandable close game. I don't think anyone should have expected the Cavs to have their best stuff that night. They're rescued because Darius Garland is awesome and scored 40 points. Then you fast forward to Sunday. They play one of their worst games of the season against the Pacers. They come back Tuesday. They play okay. I think they played great on Tuesday night in Indiana, but they played good enough to win. And then they come out on Thursday and they play terrible. Their worst game of the year. How do they respond? I think it is time to maybe see the defense start to ramp back up. It was really good in the month of November. Really, really, really good in the month of November. In the month of December. November, it was bad. It was 20th. In January, it's been bad. And it is something that needs to improve. And I think that now would be a good time, especially considering the schedule. They've got Minnesota. They've got Phoenix on a Monday afternoon. They've got 2 games with Houston. They have a game with Philly next week. Playing good defense in those games, I think, would be a really good response to exactly what happened on Thursday against OKC. I don't think that this loss is that big of a deal. It's 1 of 82. But I do think the way the Cavs respond to this loss, I think that is what the big deal here could be. Thank you again for making Locked On Cavs your first listen today and every day. Like I said earlier, you can find the show anywhere you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. Drop us a 5-star rating. Leave us a nice review. Be a friend. Tell a friend about Locked On Cavs. Again, I'm going to have a second episode today, the Friday 5. I'm going to pick out 5 topics. Some of it's going to be about this game. Some of it's going to be much more positive about things that happened earlier in the week. But we're going to talk about 5 different topics for 5 minutes total. So stay tuned for that. Make sure you're subscribed, and it will pop up in your feeds early Friday afternoon. And if you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor. Hit that thumbs up button for me. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs. I will be back later with the Friday 5, and then after the Wolves game this weekend.